What you are listening to is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in the squared circle. Both parties have agreed to dismiss their cases and have their disputes settled here in our forum, the Turnbuckle Debate.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Turnbuckle Debate. My name is Sneed.
I'm Chad.
I'm Colton.
And our guest joining us today, no stranger to the tavern, no stranger to the debate, wrestling personality, Ella J. What's going on, Ella? How are you?
I'm doing great. I always enjoy that music. It's great pump up music. It goes with the vibe of our debate here today. So I'm always down for that. And it's always a fun time with you guys.
Sets the mood. We're so happy to have you back. I think it's the third or fourth appearance.
Yeah, one of those.
We've been seeing you pop up at scrums, doing your thing. I've seen, I believe, some articles popping up on WrestleZone, which is always cool to see. Let everybody know what you have going on, what's going on in the world of LJ.
Yeah, well, as I was saying off air, at the time of recording this, my birthday is next week, so I'll be away from the wrestling world for a couple days, which I haven't done in a very long time, so I'm honestly looking forward to that. Next month, I'm planning on being in Chicago for AEW and then Survivor Series and some other stuff, and maybe Rumble. I'm not sure yet. But yeah, like you said, I write for 3 different websites, so there's a lot of articles floating on weekly, and I'm always doing my interviews, and podcasts like these are so much fun. So I'm so happy to be back.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're definitely pumped to have you back. You are no stranger to the debate. We do have 3 new topics to get into. If you guys are ready, we'll get into it now.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. First topic of the evening. Can Ricky Starks be a top guy in WWE?
I'll start on this one. Can he be a top guy in WWE? Absolutely. I think he has the chops to be a top guy in WWE. Will he be booked and utilized as a top guy in WWE? I think is much less likely. AEW's roster is bloated in its own way as well. I mean, I don't want to say with Ricky and AEW that he's a big fish in a small pond, but it's a bigger pond at WWE. It's a bigger brand. It's a bigger audience. And just, the way they like to book guys his size, I could see him getting lost in the sauce pretty easily. I think that he's got a good thing going right now. He's really hot in AEW, and he's getting pushed right now, and I think he's building, and I hope he doesn't leave anytime soon, because I don't think he's achieved all the heights that he could in AEW. But yeah, I think he definitely can be, but I would think that he would have quite a hill to climb against the machine of Titan and TKO.
Yeah, I'm a big Ricky Starks fan. Love Ricky Starks. Like you said, Colton, I'm going to kind of echo that. Can he? Absolutely. He's talented. I think he's got all the skills to be a star. Will he, if he does go to WWE? Like, I think this is all stemming from, we saw him backstage with Cody, and everyone thinks he's going to follow Jade. He's going to follow Cody. He's going to go over there. But will he? I'm torn here, because my first initial gut reaction is I just don't think he's a top guy for WWE, and it's not an indictment on his talent. It's more of an indictment on his size and the type of people that WWE choose to really get behind. But I will say, with all of the news reports that Vince has totally been cut out of creative, Triple H is totally in control. Triple H, black and gold NXT, he's shown that he will hitch his wagon to a smaller frame guy that's not the traditional big bodied dude like Hulk Hogan or any of those guys. So I think there's more of a possibility with him being a top guy under Triple H, but I cannot say he will be a top guy in WWE, just because if you look at Ricky's age, if you look at the age of the guys WWE have been pushing in that upper echelon, I just don't I don't see him matching up, staring face to face in a Mania poster with Roman Reigns. I just can't get to that point. Can he be an Intercontinental title holder? Can he be a United States champion? Absolutely. But I'm saying the question is top guy. I can't get to top guy with Ricky, although I can totally see him being a top guy in AEW. I can totally see him holding that world title eventually in AEW. I just can't get to that in WWE.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of go the same way. Like if you held a gun to my head right now, and Ricky Starks right now, can Ricky Starks be a top guy in WWE? I'm gonna say no. I do feel like Ricky has a ton of talent, and I think the spot that he's in AEW right now is where he needs to be, because I think he's just starting to really heat up, and that top guy potential is just now being seen in him. I think honing that in AEW right now, I think being a top guy in AEW is way more feasible, and he needs to achieve that before the conversation even moves to being a top guy in WWE with the way their machine is.
I mean, you guys pretty much summed up like everything that I was thinking. I was thinking, he has the mic skills. He can obviously wrestle, he has the charisma. It's just, as Colton pointed out, the booking where I'm like, I don't know if I can trust them or not. Like Chad was also saying, traditionally with the smaller guys, there have been some exceptions though. Like an AJ Styles, he
True.
is a two-time WWE champion or something. But then again, AJ Styles also had that background as a world champion and like multiple reigns, kind of the face of another company altogether. So he kind of had that, and veteran status coming in with him. So he might not be a correct correlation to Ricky then. But it has been done before. Ricky's not even like a truly small guy, but compared to like a lot of the WWE roster, he is. So I don't know. Can he, like you said, I think he can. He has all the tools to be able to, I think. But do I trust booking to, push him properly? No. I mean, he does have that in kind of with Cody Rhodes, and Jade Cargill, but also Cody and Jade also won, Ricky was FTW champion and all of that, but I think Cody and Jade also held kind of more prominent championships in AEW, whereas Ricky has not. At least I don't think he has outside of the FTW championship, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so I think if maybe he can get like a reign in AEW as maybe, a TNT champion or world champion, then I would feel more confident in saying he might have more success in WWE. But as of right now, if he were to move, say, tomorrow, I don't trust that booking would set him up properly, especially, I mean, if he's going to be a top star right now, nobody has a chance against Roman Reigns. If you're going to go in, you have a better chance on Raw. So do I trust booking? No. Do I think he has the capabilities? Yes. But I think the odds of him being a top star in WWE will increase if he can continue his resume in AEW first.
That's a great point, because right now, if he enters WWE, say within the next calendar year, he's lucky if he's feuding with the likes of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens and mixing it up with those guys. And I always looked at Kevin Owens. To me, he's a top guy, but he just doesn't get that push. And Sami Zayn, everyone was calling for him to get the title against Roman even. So there is a little bit of that, but I think he's mixing it up with guys like that. But like you said, Ella, if AEW crowns him champion and he has a couple reigns, like a 10-month reign, and he becomes the it guy in AEW for 2 or 3 years, then he comes up for free agency. Then I'm like, okay, they might respect him a little more. Right now, a mid-card guy, I love Ricky. They're pushing him. He had the program with MJF, but he's a mid-card guy in AEW right now. If he comes into WWE, he's lucky if he's a mid-card guy in WWE.
Yeah, I don't know why he would want to go to WWE right now at this point in his, like, I just don't know why with him being in the spot he is with the tag team championship, to leave I feel like he's really just heating up right now.
Especially not to cut you off, Colton, but especially with like, he just came out of a feud with Danielson. They're putting him in a ring, cutting promos with their hottest heel in Christian and their new shiny toy in Adam Copeland. They see something in him. You know what I mean? When you're sharing time with those guys, you know, AEW at least has some sort of like big plan for him to have him rubbing elbows with these level of guys. So it's like, I understand if he goes to WWE, it is the Goliath of the industry. Even if you're a mid-card guy, you're getting a lot of attention. So I get that. Maybe you don't want to be the champion of the number 2. You want to go over there and try to climb the ladder of Stanford. But I think he has way more upside and a higher ceiling in AEW than he does in WWE.
Yeah.
Currently, I mean, yeah, he's just getting started. I mean, like you said, until a couple of weeks ago, FTW title is all he's been able to get his hands on. And he just got him and Big Bill just got to win over FTR. That's a huge thing to put on your resume. There's not a lot of people, especially in AEW, there's not a lot of teams that have got that they've not only a win over FTR, let alone a championship win over FTR. So,
and speaking of that, I mean, FTR, look at what they had planned for them. They're in this. In 2022, they held all these titles, AAA, ROH, New Japan tag titles. They take them off. Now, 2023, they put the AEW straps on them. They re-signed that extension on their contract. And it was looking like we were on our way to Young Bucks FTR Part 3. And then it comes out that FTR go in the back to Tony and say, we want to drop our belts to these guys, even if it's just kind of Cash and Dax wanting to get those titles off of them so they can go play with Adam Copeland, their buddy from Asheville, North Carolina, you know, their neighbors in Asheville. Even if that was the case, for them to be like, no, we want these guys to take our titles, that's a big kind of
the feather in your cap, man.
Cap from arguably, you know, it's FTR and the Young Bucks in that tag division. So that's a big sign for them guys to want to put them over.
It's a big vote of confidence from some people with a lot of respect in the locker room.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Anybody have any final thoughts on Ricky Starks before we move on?
I think this is something we should revisit in a year to see if Ricky's, claimed another championship or kind of soared higher. I think this is something to be revisited.
I think Ricky should. I know his contract supposedly is coming up, maybe within the next year or so. I think it would serve him to sign at least a 3 more years in AEW. I think is smart for him, and then kind of relook at the landscape. But if in a dream world, the WWE machine would get behind him, I mean, this kid could be very, very, very special, but I'm not sure they see that Jade Cargill intangible it factor in him to really put that behind him yet.
Yeah. Keyword is yet. I don't know. I think he has potential, but it all depends again what he does in AEW first.
Absolutely.
I feel like this is probably the third or fourth time he's really started to get started. I feel like his other times have just been halted by something. Yeah.
I mean, last year he had late last year after MJF won the world title, wasn't he MJF's first challenger or one of the first?
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's kind of had, like you said, Sneed, kind of that push, but then, kind of fallen into the background a little bit and now is coming back to resurgence. So we'll see. I think there's potential there, but it depends what he does in AEW.
All right, guys, we'll move on to the second topic of the evening. Should Randy Orton return at Survivor Series or the Royal Rumble? Now, Ella, this was your question, so I'll defer to you to go first on this one.
Yes, this has been something. If people followed me on Twitter who are watching this, I've literally every week for the last 6 months have been tweeting, I miss Randy Orton, because I just want it to happen. So I want to preface this by saying I'll be happy if he returns, period. But this is an interesting one because, you know, there's the report saying that he's planned to be back by Survivor Series, but also like Royal Rumble is right around the corner as well. That's another like possibility. But I think, of course it could be Royal Rumble, that would be great. But like, he's also Mr. Survivor Series. So I think that that's a way to kind of remind people. And, there's rumors that War Games is coming back. So I think Randy kind of showing up at Survivor Series at the place where, was very instrumental in the early years of his career, kind of earning him that nickname would be a cool callback. And I don't know if this is going to be a Raw versus SmackDown type thing. But I think a return at Survivor Series would also be more effective to set him up in storylines, and so he can come out stronger, because if he comes back at Rumble and, is like tossed over, maybe it hurts him a little bit. I think there's more storyline wise you can do at Survivor Series personally.
Yeah, I like what you said there, Ella. To be honest, coming into this, I was on Team Rumble, just because I'm a sucker for the Rumble. It's my favorite.
Same.
It's my favorite WWE pay-per-view of the year. And like, I think about the returns we see at the Rumble, especially in recent memory, like Edge's return at the Rumble was such a surprise. It was, I came up out of my chair screaming in my living room. It was I get chills just thinking about it. And, Survivor Series hasn't exactly been what it used to be the last few years. But with Randy's kind of history with Survivor Series, that would be a really good way to kind of make this one stand out. And especially if they do some type of War Games, and the question is going to be, who's going to be the last guy on this team? I think you're right. I think that's a great way to bring Randy back in, because I don't think Randy's coming in at the Rumble and winning it. That just doesn't seem like the right move. That's not who needs a world title shot coming into Mania by any means. I don't think so. Yeah, you've changed my opinion before I even got started here. I'm moving to Randy Orton returning at Survivor Series. There are the other thing that kind of steered me towards the Royal Rumble as well initially was just that, and it doesn't look like, who knows? It's all rumor and innuendo at this point. But I mean, if CM Punk were to show up at Survivor Series, I feel like that could really overshadow Randy Orton's return, which is something I don't want that to happen. I think Randy Orton's return should be the focal point of whatever pay-per-view that happens on.
That is true.
That's everything. It's hard for me to lock in on one or the other, because there's a lot of like, I don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah.
If certain things happen certain ways, it changes. Like, gut reaction when I hear a debut at Survivor Series or Royal Rumble, I think any wrestling fan, your gut reaction is he's got to be a surprise in the Rumble. You just go for the Rumble surprise. But like you guys said, with the history at Survivor Series, the only way I would do the Rumble for Orton is if Phil Brooks comes out in Chicago. You don't want both of those. And wherever Randy does debut, I don't want to see him debuting even like he comes out and challenges Gunther. I think when he comes back, if it's me, you do Survivor Series. If Cody's in that War Games scenario, you have Randy attack Cody, and have Cody and Randy have a little program to give us time until Mania and Roman rolls back around for Cody Rhodes. That would be a nice little, they've got history, the legacy, everything with them. It could be fun. And it would make, if you don't have CM Punk in your back pocket, that is your moment. We're coming out on Sunday, Monday after Survivor Series weekend, and that's going to be the talking point. Holy shit, Randy Orton came back. He's injected himself into this Cody bloodline, whatever situation. I don't want to see him come back in a mid-card feud. we don't have much time left with Randy. Like, it's obvious once you start getting the back injuries, his dad even like floated the idea that he might be done. We don't know how serious this is. Anytime a back injury comes in, I'm like, I'm real hesitant of like their future. What anything could go wrong. So if you know you have him back, I don't want to see him doing the Kurt Angle and jobbing out to Baron Corbin on. I want to see him get one more legit top tier feud, because Randy kind of has lived his career in the shadow of John Cena. But let's be honest, if John Cena did not exist, Randy Orton is the man of that era. People forget that. He doesn't get his flowers like he should. I'm a big Viper guy. I think he's incredible. His heel work is incredible. If you put a stone cold killer heel in Randy Orton attacking the golden boy of Cody Rhodes, man, I'm all in for it.
Yeah. So when I initially looked at this question, when you sent it over, my initial gut reaction was, well, this is easy. Royal Rumble, obviously.
Yeah, we're all saying it.
I mean,
Ella changed our mind.
Yeah. Just because, I mean, just like Colton said, man, Royal Rumble is absolutely, hands down, not even a question, my favorite pay-per-view.
I love it.
It's just, it kicks off Mania season. From Rumble to Mania. Admittedly, I'm not a huge watcher of WWE's product, but from Rumble to Mania, Rumble sets it off for me, and that's what I normally follow and watch. But yeah, I don't think Randy's coming. You know, if he comes in, he has to win, and I don't think he's coming into the Rumble to win. So, Survivor Series is the move, and I didn't even think about CM Punk though. That throws a wrench into it.
Yeah, I was gonna say Colton. I hate to say, I totally forgot that, you know, the CM Punk factor. If Punk does return at Survivor Series, if that's the plan, then absolutely Randy should return at Royal Rumble, because, you know, he deserves, you know. I mean, to be fair, if you return at Rumble, it's going to get overshadowed kind of no matter what, you know? But if Punk returns at Survivor Series, that's going to be the big thing, you know, that people are talking about. Whereas Randy's definitely going to fall into kind of the wayside, you know? Then I think you should go for Rumble, you know? But if Phil Brooks is not there in Chicago, which people are saying that he's not, but you never know, then I think Survivor Series is the way to go. But yeah, I guess it is dependent on Punk though too, you know. But if it were up to me, I would say Survivor Series. I think it has more impact. But if Punk is there, then Rumble is a viable alternative.
Unless Randy comes into the Rumble and surprise just wins it, and then they figure out the story down the road.
What is he, a 15-time champion? Like, I mean, he's up there.
He's 14. If he wins one more, he'll be him and Charlotte and Triple H are tied for second. He would be firmly in second then, with 15.
Yeah, you know, I mean, Punk just throws a wrench into any situation. It's not just Randy's return here. If he comes back, there'll be some wrenches thrown around. That's for sure. It's, I mean, and I don't know. The more I think about it, it could maybe work with both of them. Because I feel like if Randy's coming in at Survivor Series, I think we're going to see him before Survivor Series. Might just be the SmackDown before. Might just be 2 days prior. But we're going to see him on WWE TV.
To get people to buy it.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you do that, I mean, it would still overshadow it to an extent. But I mean, if Punk's coming out, he's not coming out till it's on the pay-per-view or the PLE, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't want Randy's return to be overshadowed by somebody that is a massive gamble to bring in to the company at this point. I mean, it doesn't mean I don't want to see it, but it is a Chad, you put it best. It was weeks back when we were talking about when Punk first split from AEW. Do you want to take this beautiful pond of, you know, crystal spring water and drop one drop of poison into it and see what happens?
You never know. You never know what could happen. He could come over there and have that. He could come over there and be vindictive towards AEW and be like, I'm going to be a model citizen over here. I don't think that can last.
I don't think he has that in him.
I think he had that in him in AEW for like the first year. He was all happy and smiles, but who knows what went on behind the scenes. But I just think no matter how you slice it, if you debut them both at the same event, it would be, you're losing something from one of them. It's not as big as it could be. I think you've got two bullets in your chamber that need to be kind of spread out and not. AEW did it at All Out 2021 when they pulled out Danielson and Adam Cole, and it was very cool. The back-to-back surprise did hit, but I think it hit because both of them were entering the same angle. They were both entering the same storyline. Unless you somehow package them together in their return, not saying they're a team, but if they both came in targeting
they'd be going
the same
after
person.
Rollins. They would not go on the SmackDown brand after Roman. It would definitely be Rollins.
Yeah, for sure. Randy Orton and Rollins would be pretty damn cool. But man, I don't know, man. I guess my big thing is just how they bring him in. Do you guys think is him just returning enough, or do you think it has to be at a certain level that they're bringing him back, or do you think he's coming back mid-card? How do you think they're bringing him back? Orton, that is.
I don't know.
I think I would hope they would bring him like at this. Well, I don't know. I was about to say I hope they bring him in the same way that they do Edge, but honestly, I hope that he's used a little bit more. Like you said, Chad, we don't have a lot of time with Randy left, so I would like Randy's victory lap, however long it ends up being, we've got that World Heavyweight Championship in the picture now. It's not just the WWE belt. I'd like to see Randy get one more run, even if it's brief with a main championship. I mean, I would love to see him firmly be the number 2. I think that would be really cool. I think, like you said, he's lived in John Cena's shadow, which I hate. And I think that he deserves his flowers. I mean, he's been a company guy. I hope that he is, and maybe it's not immediate. Just kind of depends on what Randy's comfortable with, what he feels healthy enough to do, and I think I'd like to see him with the World Heavyweight title at least one more time.
He takes care of himself. The only thing that worries me is the way once you get that stink of age and a major injury that's put you out on the shelf for a while, they start booking you a little differently. Those older guys, we're seeing it with AJ. We saw it with Edge. They're not getting, Edge was in Mania main event. But towards the back end, he left because they didn't have a lot for him. Everything was kind of like these one-off marquee matches is what he spoke about in his interviews, but he wanted like long stories, deep. So I don't want Randy to be a veteran attraction,
it's happened to Edge, so it's not impossible, but I just can't imagine not saying that they will, but imagine not like booking or having creative plans for Randy Orton. That just sounds like preposterous. But like to your credit, Edge had said that he had offered to do more matches than what his contract was stipulated, but like creative, that's just wild. I feel like him and Randy are like legends level. Randy might be a little bit higher, but it's happened to Edge. I can assure you what Randy won't be doing though is returning to the tag team scene because Riddle is gone, which is good. We haven't really seen singles Randy in a while. It's been him and Riddle for 2 years. So I don't know, but that's a good thing. Give him some fresh people. They could just have him, squash people, but if they do that, I feel like you would have to be as a heel to kind of build him up again, do you have him return? I think he'll return as babyface initially and then maybe turn and show his true colors. But I don't know where you start him. I think it should be Raw. I think it will be Raw. I don't see why it would be SmackDown, because why would Randy Orton just sit on a SmackDown and not try to go after the championship, Right. But also part of me is like, could Randy be the one to beat Roman? I don't think so, but he hasn't faced Roman in this era. So that's always looming. I kind of want to see it, but also kind of don't. So I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities.
That was literally my next question: is does he come back heel or face?
It's got to be heel, right?
I think he comes back initially as face to get that, that pop. But then I think slowly, like, or maybe even like the Raw after or something, Randy shows his true colors and like attacks somebody.
Yeah,
I think he gets that babyface pop, maybe kind of like a Trish did. She came back, got that babyface pop, teased a little bit, and then end up turning and showing her true colors.
I want to see heel Randy.
Yeah.
I know you just said it's not going to happen, Ella, but my biggest fear is the fact that he's coming off of this injury.
That's true.
And they're like, how can we extend his bump card? Put him in a tag team so not all of it's on his shoulders.
Though. Like,
I don't know. That's what I'm scared of.
He has issues with the bloodline. Him and Drew, I think, would be perfect for each other because Randy and Riddle lost to the Usos when they, unified the titles. So he has a little bit of beef with the, when he left with the Usos. So maybe him and Drew can be a little bit disgruntled. And maybe
here's an idea.
I don't know.
Here's my fantasy booker hat. He returns to help Cody from the relationship that they have with the legacy, almost like they're bringing back this thing that they had, and they go after the bloodline. And then, like you said, Ella, he shows his true colors, attacks Cody Rhodes, and then we're off to the races for a couple months.
I think we're going to get initially babyface Randy, that pop, that feel good nostalgia, but then we're going to get, the legend killer, the Viper, the apex predator that we all love to hate. I love him anyways, though. But yeah.
All right, guys. Anybody have any final thoughts on Randy before we move on?
Selfishly, I hope he returns at Survivor Series because I'm going to be there. All right, I'm done.
I'm just stoked that he's on his way back.
Yeah, I'm glad this is even a conversation.
I was nervous. I was nervous that he was going to hang it up because his dad was talking. You never know. You never know.
Yeah. I'm very excited to see him come back, man. I was
Absolutely.
real worried that we didn't get a proper goodbye for Randy Orton, and I can't wait to see him come back, man. Huge Orton fan, and I think you're right. I think it's impossible to not bring him back as a babyface initially because just on the concept of absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Yeah.
You can try to bring him in as a heel, and the crowd's just going to be so happy he's back. It'll be impossible.
We're going to be singing voices the whole time.
Yeah, I think if he. If Cody ends up being the guy that takes the belt off Roman at WrestleMania 40, and then, Randy's been in his corner helping him get there, and then Randy turns on him, and that's his first feud with the big belt, I think that writes it.
It's exciting because, he wants to take in that pop, that welcome back pop. Everyone's happy, and it lends itself to something truly dastardly that's going to rock the wrestling world for him to make everyone hate him again. So that's exciting to think about.
Love it. All right, guys, we'll move on to the final topic of the evening. Will Nick Aldis get a legit WWE in-ring run, or is he there just to be a GM?
You don't have Nick Aldis there just to be a GM. Like, not after and granted, they're two different people, but in two different levels. But like Kurt Angle, came back, was GM, and then he had a legit run in the ring. He did that stuff with the Shield, all that stuff going on there. And then he had that, I don't want to talk about how he lost at WrestleMania, but Kurt Angle, came back as GM, and then he faded into, legit runs in the ring, one last run, not saying Nick is near that age or whatever. But I don't see a world where you have Nick Aldis on your roster who has accomplished so much elsewhere and proven himself and has grown. He's the national treasure. He has evolved so much. I don't see a world where you can justify having Nick Aldis contracted to you and you don't let him wrestle at all. So I think he should. I don't know though. I think he should. Will he? I'm gonna say yes because he should.
I think he is like exactly what Triple H loves. He's a body guy. He does his powerlifting. He's all about presentation. I don't think they necessarily have like this big legit in-ring run in their plans for him at this moment, but I think Nick is so good on the mic. I think he's underrated how charismatic he is on the mic and how funny he can be. And I think he's going to win over Triple H even more. I think he's going to show something. I think Triple H is going to see something in him. And I do think he gets an in-ring run, legit in-ring run. Like, are we talking like feuding top of the card type of stuff? That I don't know. I mean, he still has to finish up that. I hate to keep bringing up Cody, but they have 2 matches against each other. They're split. There's that rubber match that hardcores have been asking for. Does Cody push for that match to happen in WWE? Could Nick potentially be, if Cody wins at Mania 40, are we slow burning to Nick Aldis possibly being a heel that he could contend with? Not a Mania main event level, but Survivor Series, any of these PLEs beyond Mania. I feel like that's a feud Cody could have if he gets that title. I don't know if we're going that direction, but I think he will definitely see in-ring action, and I think his charisma is going to win over the front office.
Yeah, I think he definitely has an in-ring run. I don't know how extensive it will be, but I mean, the guy's he has everything. Like, he's great on the mic. He's great in the ring. He also has history with LA Knight. So I think there will be, I think he absolutely will have an in-ring run. I just don't know when or how it's going to happen, but if he doesn't, it's a travesty, because this guy has, he's great on the mic. He's a great wrestler. So if they don't utilize that, I think they're definitely missing out. But
I think Triple H also looks at the way he handled himself as a champion who carried the 10 pounds of gold, Sweet Charlotte. Triple H has a very fond, he really appreciates NWA wrestling. Look at the way he looks at those former champions. Look at the way he shepherded Flair. Look at the way Triple H talks about Harley Race, and the way, if you watched NWA when Nick Aldis was on top, he carried that belt with prestige. Arguably, he brought that title back to some level of prominence that it hadn't had in years. So I think that's also something Triple H looks at and is like, respects him for the way he carried himself as a champion. But do you guys see him being could he be a main eventer? I mean, could he?
I mean, I think he could be a main eventer. I don't know if he's going to get a title run. I mean, I got a lot of feelings about Nick Aldis's current state in WWE, how he got here, what the plans are for him. Because, he came back to Impact, and he came back as a heel and was the first, big bad challenger against Alex Shelley in his run as the Impact title. It was a good program. The promos they cut were awesome. And it's, then all of a sudden, boom, he's gone. And the rumor was he was coming over just to be an agent, just to book things, just to book matches, just to help out backstage. Now we're seeing him as an in-ring personality. First of all, I'm extremely excited about Nick Aldis as in a GM role. I actually tuned into SmackDown last week for that segment, and
he was
I
highly
thought it was
entertaining, man.
It was very entertaining.
Yeah.
But I mean, Aldis is only 36 years old, man. Like, he's still got, and physically he looks great. I don't know if you guys saw the title match between him and Alex Shelley. But I mean, it was his first in-ring match in quite a while, and he has not missed a beat. He looks really good. You got to wonder too it just seems very sudden to me. Like, it seemed like him coming back to Impact and being around essentially for one pay-per-view and then jumping ship. That didn't strike me as the original plan. And Triple H's right-hand man these days is Jeremy Borash, who's former Impact executive. So I'm wondering if Jeremy had a hand in bringing all this over, being like, yo, you really got to pick this guy's brain. He'd be great body and mind to have on the team. I mean, I think he's the total package, man. He's a brilliant mind to help things backstage. Chad Sneed, you guys said he's incredible on the mic. He's going to be a GM character like he's going to be the best GM character we've had since the Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman days, like the first iteration of Eric Bischoff as the GM. Like, I don't think they've had a GM character with that type of mic skill and the ability to get heat since then. So, I mean, I'm excited to see him in that role, but he's still got a lot left in the tank. It would be stupid to not have this guy spend, and I think it'll be a slow transition. I think he will wrestle while still maintaining the GM role. I think I wouldn't be surprised if we get a match with Dominic of him putting him in his place.
It's funny you say that, because I was just thinking about that. We've seen not gimmick, but like authority figures wrestling at WrestleMania. And for some reason, maybe like it's fantasy booking or something, but I can see something going down between Nick and Dom at like the Royal Rumble to kind of propel something. And then Dominic just keeps digging and being a thorn at the side of Nick Aldis, which leads to, an undercard feud leading into WrestleMania. And maybe that's the way you set up Nick Aldis, as an in-ring competitor. I also really want Nick Aldis and Gunther. I think that would be a freaking banger.
That's a dream match.
But I think if Nick were to kind of initiate a run, I think somebody like a Dominic Mysterio is going to be the perfect person to kind of start that, get the ball rolling with that.
Is it a mistake that they brought a guy for casual WWE fans? I saw a lot of people didn't even know who he was, but for the people like us that watch all the product of all the promotions, is it a mistake to bring him in as a GM like this? Is this a bit of a misstep? Like, should he have just came in ring? Like, did they mess up bringing him in like this?
I don't think so. I think this is a good one, because you make a good point, Chad. There are people in the WWE fan base that have no idea who he is. I think this is a good way to introduce him to that crowd, because the main event, it's a little top heavy in WWE right now. You've got Cody, you've got Roman, you've got everybody begging for LA Knight to get more of a push. You've got Gunther as on this huge intercontinental run. You got a lot of top guys running around this company right now. This is a good spot for him to showcase everything he has, to showcase his mic skills, to showcase just his personality in general. I think this is a really good way to intro him. I never would have thought that this is where they were going to go. And Nick's done a great job of leaving all of his future plans extremely ambiguous when talking to the media outlets. He's been like, well, I'm not ruling out wrestling again, but he's also not, chomping at the bit to get back in the ring. So it's like, he's leaving it real gray, which I'm sure is intentional. But no, I don't think it's a mistake. I think it'll be interesting to see. I don't Adam Pearce, I'm not sure how much of him as if we're going to get to a point where we have GMs in a more of a storyline competition between Raw and SmackDown like we had back in the day. I'm interested to see where, getting more of Adam Pearce. I just don't, to me, no disrespect to Adam Pearce, but I don't think of him and Nick Aldis as being on the same level in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
So that's going to be an interesting dynamic. But no, I think this is a good way to bring him in. He looks great in a suit. If you just brought him in as an in-ring competitor and strutted him around like you did in NWA in a 3-piece suit, I don't think it would have. This is a good way to ease him into this fan base, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm going to be watching SmackDown a lot more now that he's on the scene. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead, Sneed.
I was just gonna say, I think it's a good way to bring him in to tell his story for the casual fan. Because he can come in and tell his story. Obviously we know who he is, but now he can set up his story with the casual fan base before he does, I think, inevitably get back in the ring with WWE.
And I think, no disrespect to Nick Aldis, but you couldn't have brought him in like you did AJ Styles. I don't think he hadn't reached that level where it would have been a bit of an empty pop with the regular WWE crowd. I feel like the hardcores would have lost it, but I like what you said, Ella, about the Dom thing. If all of this is a slow build to get him to put the boots back on at Mania in a kind of a spotlighted mid-card feud. That's awesome. And I got to be honest, man, with him as GM, if we're going to see him in segments like we did on his debut this past SmackDown, he is skilled enough where he could totally steal the spotlight in a lot of segments. Like, and I think that's something to watch moving forward, is how they handle him when he's in between two guys in the ring with the microphone giving orders. The way they let him kind of showcase his charisma, showcase those one-liners he can pull off the cuff. If he's getting a lot of love and he's becoming kind of a ruling the roost fan favorite in his segments, I think that's very telling that they see something more. They see an in-ring future. Now, if he's just being Adam Pearce and doling out the duties every SmackDown, then I'm thinking like, well, maybe they don't see anything in him.
All right, guys. Anybody have any final thoughts on Nick Aldis before we move on?
Pleasant surprise to see him on camera in WWE so quick. Yeah. I'm excited to see where it goes.
All right, guys. Well, Chad, we do have a round robin.
Yeah, we got one round robin.
All right, let's get to it.
Round robin.
Were you offended by MJF and Juice Robinson's angle with the roll of quarters? I believe this was last week.
Yeah, this was last week. And this is just, we don't have to go in depth. Round robin, just give your quick thoughts. I'll jump in. I get that it was touchy with the state of the climate in the world and all the tragedy and horrors that have happened in recent weeks in current events news. But this is wrestling. They've had a long history of tapping into stuff like that, even if it's a little icky. We got to remember this was a heel doing this. Maybe I'm just an old school fan who kind of loves when they bring that real life heat. I know this is as tragic as it gets, but we're talking about a business where in the wake of 9/11, we had Muhammad Hassan. You know, they killed that pretty quick, but I don't think this was nowhere near the level of pushing buttons that Muhammad Hassan was when they debuted that character and some of the backstage segments they were doing with him. I thought this was good heat. They had, and it wasn't just heat for the sake of heat with the current events. I think it was storyline that was set up long before with the CM Punk storyline when MJF told the story of the quarters when he was a kid, all of that. I think it was playing into character, and it just so happened they pulled the trigger on this when a tragic situation happened in Palestine and Israel. So it didn't offend me. I'm rarely offended by anything in pro wrestling.
It didn't offend me either. I did have the thought, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the roll of quarters has been something that Juice has used for a long time before he got to AEW. And frankly, we haven't seen it displayed a whole lot in AEW. I remember seeing it once early on of him interfering in a match, like first couple of weeks when he hit the scene in AEW. But they're not beating it over. They're not giving it to us every week like they were with William Regal with the brass knuckles back in the day. So I feel like for people who are not familiar with Juice Robinson's work prior to his time here, that maybe seemed a little bit more targeted towards MJF. It wasn't as much as Juice's signature calling card as far as cheating. But it didn't offend me, but I will say I did have the thought as soon as it happened. I was like, oh damn, this is not the best timing. Somebody, I can hear right. The people on the internet right now already. I can see the posts before they even happen, man. I think you're right. I don't think they pulled the trigger on this because of current events. I think this was already planned. And I mean, who can forget that promo from MJF talking about being bullied like that and having the quarters thrown at him? I think this was just putting a great amount of heat on something that they're already sitting up between MJF and Juice. So, and just MJF and Bullet Club Gold in general. So, you know, maybe not the best timing, but I don't think it was intentional, and I was not personally offended.
I think with things like this, you know, there's a certain kind of line and it blurring reality and also kayfabe with Juice's character, and I will be the first to admit that I honestly haven't seen the full segment because that was on a Tuesday. I was doing my news writing and trying to keep track of both. But I did see, like Colton said, a lot of outrage, and I think a lot of it was justified, though. In my opinion, it's one of those things where it's kind of teetering a line, kind of blurring kayfabe with MJF's reality. For me, I think people were rightfully outraged. For me, it came off just, there's certain things for me just personally, that I don't think should be said on television, even just for the storyline. And for me, that was one of these times. And so for me, it came across as distasteful. But I can see your points at being part of Juice's character already and stuff. But for me personally, it kind of crossed that line a bit and came across as distasteful. That's just to put it bluntly. So.
Yeah, for me, I'll be honest. I never even thought as I was watching it that it was something that was going on in the world right now, because when I'm watching wrestling, it's kind of an escape for me to not think about that. So my mind, it's Juice using something that he always uses to do a callback to a segment or a promo that MJF cut, and to kind of cut deep on him with the promo that he cut. So, when it happened, it didn't offend. I wasn't offended by it.
I get it though. The line crossing of it all, I guess I'm just so like numb to being cause wrestling always puts its foot in its mouth.
Yeah.
So I just they do a lot of distasteful stuff. I'm so used to it. I mean, I grew up in the Attitude Era, so it was kind of par for the course. Mm-hmm. So I think it kind of numbed the shock factor of it all for me. Yeah. And I'm with Sneed. I didn't even pick up on that until you started reading me the social media. And then I'm like, oh, of course people are going crazy.
Yeah. Right before we went on, that I was reading, I was going through to just catch up on anything from the night right before we started recording, and I started seeing all this, and I was like, oh my God, I didn't even
put two and two together. And I'm like, yeah, this is going to be heat.
I completely understand anybody and totally get with the state of current things in the world, why anybody would be if they didn't think it would be in bad taste. Absolutely. I want to make that clear by saying that I wasn't personally, but it doesn't mean I don't think anybody should have not been.
Right.
By any means.
100%.
Yeah.
People feel the way they feel, and I respect that. And they know, because all signs point to they have moved away from the role of quarters. So they're not, they did that, and they're like, ooh, we need to read the temperature of the room. And I think they've moved. I think Juice attacked him with something else. They went away from the quarters. So
at least there's that.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, Ella, it has been great having you back on. I'm sure you'll be a familiar face on here again. Let everybody know where they can find you and what you have going on.
You can follow me. I still call it Twitter. It's Twitter to me, damn it. You can follow me there at It's Ella J. If you go to the link in my bio there, all my links to all my projects and podcasts and writing are all in one convenient place. Like I was saying, I am planning to be in Chicago next month for AEW and Survivor Series. So if you're there, please say hello. I'm super excited for, we're approaching Mania season, Rumble's also right around the corner. So it's getting there. I'm getting excited for this new year coming up, but in the meantime, I don't know when this is going to drop. I'm going to enjoy my birthday in the meantime for a couple days.
Yeah, I think this will drop a day or two before your birthday. So
okay.
Yep.
So happy birthday.
Yeah. Happy birthday. Enjoy a well-deserved trip away from wrestling.
And happy birthday to Sneed too as well, coming up.
Thank you.
So
yeah.
Yep. All right, guys, that is going to wrap us up for this edition of the Turnbuckle Debate. Make sure you guys are heading over to theturnbuckletavern.com for all of your tavern needs. Colton, I'm going to throw to you, man. Get your shit in.
All right. Join me and Stephen Acefield, the Ace of the Tavern, Acefield Retro, at Thursday nights at 10 o'clock on the for Brace for Impact, covering everything Impact Wrestling on the Turnbuckle Tavern YouTube channel. And then on Friday morning on Spotify and Apple, where you get your podcasts.
Perfect. With all that being said, court is dismissed.